So let's talk Rylie Mills. And he was a rotational guy last year. This is an opportunity, I think, for him to really kind of take his game to another level. Maybe not necessarily be the starter, but again, with the rotation that you have, does it matter who the first guy out there is, right? I mean, so what do you see potentially for Rylie Mills this year?
I think he also, again, you're not making this move just because of Jayson Ademilola. It's because of Jayson Ademilola and what's behind him.
And company, yeah.
Correct. And Rylie Mills is a guy that Notre Dame is extremely excited about. And look, he not only played as a freshman, he was a key rotation player at 255 to 260 pounds and didn't play like a guy that weighed that much. He was kind of a five technique defensive end in high school. I think both of these guys too, Vince, can play five technique in a three down front. Would it shock me if there are times this year where we see Notre Dame in a 3-3-5 with Jayson Ademilola on one side and Rylie Mills on the other side? No, it wouldn't. If you're going with like a bigger group and maybe you have Isaiah Foskey kind of standing up doing some different things, so you're in your 4-2-5 personnel sort of, but you've got one of those guys kind of being that big end in a certain look. I wouldn't be shocked by that at all. I think both of them can play over the tackle in a three down look, and I think Mills especially can be effective there because he's so big and powerful, but he's got long arms. He's just a really thick kid, but he's an athlete. He's really an athletic kid, and I think he's someone who's capable of kind of having that sophomore breakout, and they're going to need him to, right? Yeah. And he's going to need to because we'll get into this in a second, but there's a young guy even younger than him that's coming along that is going to push for playing time as well. So I think that's a really unique combination. I think they bring different body types, but similar games. And so with Marcus Freeman, there's certain things that maybe you do more of with Jayson Ademilola and then more things you do with Rylie Mills, but there's nothing one's going to do that you can't then still do with the other, which is really what you need, that continuity. I can only make this call when Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah is at Rover. None of the other Rovers can do what he can do. That makes it challenging if he's not in the game. Well, that's even more challenging at the defensive line where you have to rotate if you want guys to make it through a game and through a season. You could just leave Jeremiah Owusu at Rover all the time if nobody else can do what he can do.
Sure.
Here, you're not. You don't need depth just because if an injury happens. You need depth if everybody's healthy. So Rylie Mills needs to kind of take that jump. He needs to start, using his hands more effectively. He knows what to do. There were just times where he was a freshman that was going against guys that were bigger and stronger than anyone he's ever gone against, and there was an adjustment period. But by the end of the year, I thought Rylie Mills was playing good football. And I think there's an excitement about what this duo can do. Maybe there's games where Rylie Mills plays a little bit more. Most games I expect Jayson Ademilola to play a little bit more. But I just see them as a really strong 1-2 punch. And the only reason we would notice that one guy's in the game than the other is they don't look alike.
Right.
And the obvious ways, but also 1-6-3, 1-6-5, and so I think this duo could be really dynamic and be the best 1-2 punch Notre Dame has had at the position in a long time. Because Sheldon Day was a great player, but there was a big drop off between that next guy.
Sure.
When we look at the 2012 off defensive line with Capron Lewis Moore and Lewis Nix and Stephon Tuitt, excellent players, but you had Sheldon Day coming off the bench, and after that, it was kind of like there was a drop off.
Sure.
Well, now where every position we're talking about how the number 2 guy is maybe just as good and just not as a veteran as the number 1 guy. And that's where you want to be. Because now it's like no matter who's on the field, we have a chance to be productive. And I think this is a position where you could see that more than any. And again, I think the good thing about that, Vince, is if Rylie Mills steps up and plays well, then that's going to force Jayson Ademilola to say, hey, I can't take today off. I can't not be focused today. I can't not miss this game or miss this practice, or I got to do what I need to do, because if Rylie Mills is out there playing and they can't call my number, they may be like, you know what? We're okay, and not just with Rylie Mills, but what's behind him. And that's the kind of talent Rylie Mills has. And that's what you see from Alabama and Clemson and Ohio State and programs like that, where you've got this really good starter, but he also knows I got to bring it today, because if I don't, there's a dude behind me just as good, and they have no problem going to him. And I just think that makes your whole position better. And that's kind of what I see the 3 technique. with Rylie Mills. And if he doesn't step up, that doesn't mean Jason Ademilola is not going to have a big year. It just means that there's going to be a bigger gap when Jason Ademilola is not on the field. So they need him to step up and be that guy. Yes, I think he can be that, but they need it. And there's a bigger gap between what he was in 2020 and what he needs to be than there was between what Jason Ademilola was and what he needs to be, right? Because of the veteran player, there's not as a long of a road this offseason that Jason Ademilola has to haul. He just has to be more consistent with it. Rylie Mills not only needs to be more consistent, he's got to be better than he was last year. Last year was about promise. Now it's about turning that promise into production. That's going to be the key.